afternoon. We have Kathy Burkidge, who is based in Melbourne, Australia, and we will be covering the topic of leading with mindfulness, which we all know as PMO and project professionals and as leaders in general is something that's super important for our day-to-day. With a background in software development, Kathy is an Agile BA professional with over 30 years of experience in IT. She provides business analysis, Agile training and consulting services to many organizations in a variety of industries, as well as speaking internationally on topics relating to Agile, mindset, and business analysis. Kathy works with teams to improve teamwork, be more innovative, and deliver better customer value. She's passionate about seeing people, teams, and organizations thrive in an environment of collaboration and harmony. So welcome, Kathy, and I will hand the reins over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima, and thank you so much for having me as part of this wonderful conference. I'm just going to, hang on, it did it for me again. Here it goes. There is my screen share. I'm so thrilled to be part of sharing my thoughts around leadership with mindfulness. As mentioned, I've a long history with IT projects, working in PMOs, helping to build PMOs, helping to mature PMOs. And my number one goal with any work that I'm doing is seeing people thrive and seeing it happen with a sense of harmony. And that's something I'm really passionate about. And I started with mindfulness 20 years ago, and I've noticed the impact it's made to me and my career, and I'm hoping to share a little bit of that with you today. So thank you for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure. So when I think about leadership, there's a lot of thoughts out there. Just a simple Google search will find you thousands of different perspectives and definitions of what leadership is. And I just picked one from Forbes, which is very much a good summary of many of the ones that I've found out there. The process of social influence which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. Okay, of course, we all know that, right? But it's not that simple. Leadership often is not a position that we are designated. Leadership is actually something that we earn. There's a huge difference between being a manager and a leader. And in my opinion, from the little brief time of 35 years in the industry, I know that leadership comes in multiple layers. Leadership at every level is what we're seeing more and more of in the organisation. And in a PMO, a project management office, we are leading, but we're also dealing with leaders throughout the whole organisation. So leadership is really that influential kind of soft kind of skill about how do we really lead, not just manage. Management, the hard skills, the technical skills, that's great. And sometimes managers are designated by those above. But to be a true leader, we need to think differently. You might be familiar with this lovely gentleman on the screen, Mahatma Gandhi. He has the best leadership quote, in my opinion, that inspires me all the time. Be the change you want to see. Gandhi was a person from the people, for the people. He was a truly inspiring leader. He was not designated leader by anybody. People chose to follow him. People understood his vision of a better India, of a better system, of a better life. He inspired that vision by doing what he said and saying what he was doing. He wasn't about being above anybody. He was equal and even found himself below the average common man. He was led by example as being a slave of the people for the people. He provided a vision of hope, and he persisted with that vision despite all the adversity that was shown around him. He didn't falter. He got back up each time. He was resilient in the face of much adversity. He practiced what he preached. He didn't expect anyone to do something different than what he did. When he was talking about such simple things as homespun clothing, simple, honest, modest clothing by the people, for the people, he didn't go around wearing suits and fancy things. He was seen frequently in front of his spinning wheel, spinning cloth and making cloth for the people, which he himself wore. He did not see himself above anyone else. He didn't see his opinion to be above anyone else's opinion. He was there to serve the people, to unite against this greater cause, the cause of a better India. This is what inspires me as a leader, to not be a manager, to not be above anyone else, but to serve the people, to bring us together, to unite the people against this with regards to this common cause, not against a common enemy. Sometimes that might be the case. There's a bit of a faux pas, but we are here to rally people around a vision that's not about us, but about the greater good, or a purpose beyond our own self. His vision wasn't about Gandhi being the president of India. His vision was for everyone to do better under a united, more equal, more fair India. He took responsibility for his people. He took responsibility for being the person to be that person, that enabler, that supporter. And through the way he acted, he garnered the support and the trust, and he spoke from the credibility that motivated people around his cause, that brought people to hopefully, again, bring India to where it is today, the great nation it is. So I always think of Gandhi when I think of what great leadership is. So when we think about leadership, it's not about what we're designated to be. It's something that we are in our actions and our ways of being. So I'm going to ask you, audience, gentle audience, to put your thoughts into the chat window, which is available on your conference right-hand side in the menu, second one down. If you think of the vertical menu, and again, your menu might be a little bit different to what I see. I'm really keen to have some thought of you putting what makes a great leader of an effect, what makes a great leader? What are the skills and abilities of that effective leader? I'm keen to hear from you. So put your thoughts into the chat and I'll try to call a few of them out. I might not be able to get to everyone's. Authenticity, fantastic. Communication, absolutely critical. Emotional intelligence, so important. Thank you. Empowering their team, absolutely critical. Someone who's trusted, exactly. Mediation is important, or meditation is important. Maybe I should put my glasses on, but both are. Active listening, staying out of everyone's way. I love that, getting out of people's way. They're doing a good job. Let's just enable them and get out of their way so they can make good things happen. That's for me. Empathy, authenticity, courage, gratitude. Oh, I think I need to stop my presentation there. You're already all on top of it. Seeing the talents of others, and that's really important. Ability to create under desirable vision. That's right, exactly right. So leadership is being able to choose responsibly in the face of adversity and not being discouraged, and keep that fire alight, keep that candle of vision alive, to keep inspiring people, to enable people, to support people, seeing the talent of others. Wonderful things from everyone. Thank you for your contributions. And we could probably go for the rest of the next hour on the attributes of a great leader. I'll put a few thoughts together. I know, too many, right? I'm not going to go through them one by one. Otherwise, we literally will be here till midnight. But you can see there's a lot of common themes there, including some of the ideas that you yourselves have come up with. Self-awareness, emotional intelligence, listening, supportive, being responsible, having empathy, positivity, flexibility, and reliability. I think of our role as one of a mentor, of making people or giving people the ability and the support to be greater than ourselves. We might be the ones dealing with inspiring the vision and understand what the vision is, but then we should be one of the enabler. So we might be thinking strategically about what we're trying to achieve, which is great. We can't ignore those kinds of skills. But then once we've imparted that vision, we then rally the troops around us, rally those people with the skills and abilities, including our own, that can help that vision come to being. So importantly, we need to think about how we're showing up. Are we showing up as our full authentic self, or are we painting a picture and putting a mask on as a leader? That's something that maybe you can reflect on yourself, of the leaders that have inspired you and supported and made you a better person, and those leaders who have been inauthentic and perhaps been a leader of sorts, but not really the person that we're wanting them to be. So there are many skills and abilities of a leader, and this is not the purpose you've come to hear from me, but I'm here to talk about a few aspects, including an important one. And I love this quote from Confucius. As you can tell, I like a good quote. They do inspire me, and these are the ones that inspire me. And our greatest glory is not in never failing, but rising every time we fall. And this is a wonderful quote by our friend Confucius. And it's one that I think really resonates when it comes to leadership, because we're not always successful, and our team themselves are not always perfect either. That's the nature of things. In fact, we are all born resilient. Learning to walk was an act of resilience, of us trying again. And each time that we fell on our bum as we tried to walk, we got up again and tried again. Resilience is not about never failing. Resilience is not about not being stressed or having adversity. In fact, resilience is the ability to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and get up every single time. Now, resilient people do not experience less stress than anybody else. It's just their attitude. It's their ability to say, well, that happened. Let's learn from it and get up and do it again. And for me, this is one of the greatest attributes that we can be as a leader, resilient and modeling that resilient. As they say, be the change you want to see. So if we're resilient in ourselves, we're modeling that resilience with our team. So resilience is all about acceptance, of moving forward, of acknowledging that perhaps something not so wonderful has happened and moving forward. Now, how do we do that? How do we just say a bad thing happened and we need to move forward? Many people suffer from lack of resilience because they get stuck. They ruminate. They replay the bad thing and expect it to happen over and over again. Whereas resilient people look forward with optimism. They can let go. They can say, well, that was the past. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to clear the slate and move forward despite the adversity or the bad thing that might have happened. So how do we do that? Resilience is a bit like a muscle and a skill that we can build up. And one of the key skills, amongst others, is learning mindfulness. I just wanted to point out one thing when we talk about resilience, is that resilience doesn't mean accepting bad things happen. Bad things happen all over the world, and notwithstanding the world that we find ourselves in many different ways today. Resilience is not about, oh, well, everything's good. That's not resilience. Bad things still happen, and resilience doesn't make bad things okay. Sometimes things happen we have no control over. It doesn't make them okay, but it's ability to still go forward. So I just wanted to call that out, that bad things is not, it's not that sort of acceptance. Resilience and acceptance are two different things. I just want to put that out there. But a key tool in being more resilient is mindfulness. It's not the only tool, but it's the tool that has helped me over the last 20 plus years that I've been practicing mindfulness. So if you talk about what is mindfulness, if you ask 20 different people, you'll get 20 different answers. And that's kind of what I love about mindfulness. It's kind of broad and there's many different definitions. So I think about it from a number of different aspects, and they're the aspects I'm going to share. When you boil it all down, mindfulness is all about being aware. Now, that sounds very obvious and very easy, but actually, how aware are we? Are we aware right now of what's happening around us? Maybe, maybe not. How about the example of driving home from work or driving to a friend's place, and you get out of your car and you're into the door and you think, I don't remember how I drove here. I don't remember it. I know I must have driven. The car's there. Did I run a red light? Did I have an accident? Did I hit a pedestrian? I don't remember. Your awareness was not on the driving. What was happening? Your awareness was actually lost in thought. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I want to stress that being lost in thought and being in that what we call non-default mode is a good thing. It's helpful at times. But awareness is the opposite of mindlessness. It's mindfulness to say, I know what's happening. I know what's happening here around me. And that means an outer awareness of the environment that we're in, who we're with, our stakeholders, the situation at hand, really seeing things as they are and being present for them. So outer awareness is part of mindfulness, really bringing to attention what's going on, but inner awareness, what's happening within myself? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And most importantly, what's that naughty little inner voice, that inner dialogue? What is that telling me? No one else can see that inner awareness but you. So being aware of what's happening within me. So inner and outer awareness are both needed to be mindful, especially when we're trying to be a leader and working with others. So when we think of another aspect, it's really about observation of what's happening without reaction. Now, reactivity is of course, we have to work in the real world and respond to the situations at hand, but responsiveness and reactiveness are slightly different things. Responsiveness is doing it with care, with consideration. Reactiveness is doing it like a knee-jerk reaction, like a reflex at the doctors when they put the hammer to your reflexes and you involuntarily jerk. We can be like that with our attitude, with our words and our emotion and our responses. We don't want that. As a leader, we need to come to our decisions and lead with our people from a calm, considered and clear point of view, not from the automatic responses that come first. Many of you might be familiar with the example of blurting something out without really allowing responsiveness. It's happened and something's come out of our mouth and we think, oh, I wish I could take that back. But words can't be reactive. We're not on videotape, except for those watching this recording. But in real life, we can't rewind. So mindfulness allows us to be present, to observe with complete awareness and use that as a point to pause, to take stock, to do some subtle analysis and then respond from a better position, a more wiser position as we're working in our worlds, this crazy world that we find ourselves in. Importantly, mindfulness is about attention and deliberate attention. Attention is the greatest resource that you yourself own, and I mean within yourself, not about money and all that good stuff. Your attention is pretty much at your own control, notwithstanding some types of illnesses that might mean that you've got issues with this. But for most of us, attention is a wonderful resource which we can direct at will. where is your attention now? Are you with me? Or are you looking at your emails? Are you listening to what I'm saying? Or are you on a text message? Your attention is what you are deliberately focusing on. So just like walking into a black room, completely pitch dark with a flashlight, imagine flicking the switch of your flashlight on and then directing that beam of light to any part of the room at will. I can move it up, down, side to side to illuminate parts of the room. Your attention is exactly the same. You have the ability to turn your flashlight and light of attention to any topic, whether it's to outside beyond the window that I'm looking at, or to you, kind audience, here with me today. My attention is a great resource. So mindfulness is the ability to understand, where is my attention? Is it here with my team? Is it here with my stakeholders? Am I being present? Am I listening? Or am I distracted? Am I looking at my text? Am I thinking about dinner tonight? Or maybe that big problem that I've got to go into the meeting in the next hour. So deliberate attention of being here and now and bringing awareness into where our attention is, where our attention should be, and making sure our attention is where it should be. Mindfulness also has the component of awareness that says it's an openness to whatever unfolds right now. No one can control anyone else but yourself. So an openness is about, well, it's going to happen, and I'm okay with it. I'll let whatever happens unfold in this moment, and then I'll use my mindfulness awareness to say, well, what's the next best thing I need to do here? So it's really about dropping judgments of expectations of how we want it to be, how we think it should be, and how it actually is. Because there's actually three differences there: what we want, what we think it is, what we want, we think it is, and what is actually there. Openness allows us to see things as they really are, without all those veils or clouding of judgments of those judgments, beliefs, perceptions, and expectations. We can drop them, see things as they are more clearly, more objectively, and go forward from a much better informed position. In summary, mindfulness for me is a carefulness of mind, a carefulness of how I'm showing up, how I'm thinking, how I'm paying attention, how I am being here present in the moment with people, with our work. So we're being careful with our mind. And I like the concept of being mind your mind, mind how your mind is reacting, because it is a naughty little beast sometimes with some of the terrible self-talk and unhelpful points of view that are actually taking us away from being that leader that we want to be. How do we do mindfulness? Well, if you ask 50 people, you'll get 50 more responses. For me and many of us in the mindfulness community, we think of mindfulness in two ways. The informal mindfulness way, which is a moment-to-moment awareness of recall and refocusing, which is all about watching our mind. What are my thoughts? Where's my attention? How am I seeing this? And moment to moment, analysing that to say, well, my attention should be here. I'm judging this, which is incorrect. I've got this perception, maybe I need to be more open here. So moment to moment, as we're going through our days with our work, we can be more mindful and being completely aware of what's happening in here to try to drop and reduce that inner voice, that inner dialogue that perhaps is not allowing us to see things as clearly as we should be. And of course, the other side of mindfulness is the formal practice of meditation. Meditation has a lot of different connotations depending on who you speak to, but for me, meditation is a bit like going to the gym. If you think about going to the gym and picking up heavy weights and building up big muscles in your biceps and in in your chest and in your back. Meditation helps build that mindfulness muscle. If we meditate, which is a deliberate withdrawing of our thoughts internally and practicing internal awareness, not in the real world, but withdrawing into a deliberate state of meditation, that's like going to the gym and having a big workout, which means out of meditation, when we are in the world with our stakeholders and our projects and in the office, we're more able to be more mindful in the moment. So it's like a muscle that we can build on, the mind as a muscle, and that meditation being a gym workout for it. So mind and muscle, different things, and that's what we're talking about with meditation. In this course, in this brief session, we're not going to talk much about that. Mindfulness has many proven benefits, and there are more than 5,000 peer-reviewed papers now by these crazy institutions like Berkeley, California, Yale, and even Melbourne Monash University are researching the benefits of mindfulness, and there are so many. Notwithstanding, the most important one for me as a leader is calm. Calmfulness in the state of adversity, dealing with other stakeholders, maybe sponsors, maybe CEOs, who may be losing their mind, but just because they're losing their mind doesn't mean we are. We can remain calm despite the face of what we're dealing with, which of course can be quite challenging, and that challenges aren't disappearing anytime fast. We can also remain clear. Clarity is seeing things, like we said before, as they are, without those perceptions, judgments, beliefs, and habitual habits of mind, so we can see things as they are in front of us, without all those veils and filters that we all see. So mindfulness cuts through those filters and really opens us up to seeing what we have in front of us, not just what we think. And notwithstanding, one of the best benefits that we hear about is the ability to reduce stress. There's been many studies on this, and I've got some notes here about the University of Massachusetts in the USA, which studied the benefits of mindfulness in regards to stress. And one of the key things they found was people who are more mindful were able to step away from their thoughts, to realize you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are there. They're not always true. Don't believe what you think. Sometimes our thoughts are actually coming from all those preconceptions that we all have. So we can be more aware of those thoughts and objectively criticize whether those thoughts are true or not. We can resist that reactive behavior and respond from a more careful and considered point of view. It allows us to reduce that fight and flight mechanism that can happen when we're under stress and in difficult situations, to actually be more relaxed and come from a more healthy point of view, I suppose. So it's more awareness of our emotions. Emotions don't disappear just because we're at work. We can be aware of them and respond to them more wisely, rather than being a slave to our emotions and going in and going for the jugular and screaming at people, which I know managers sometimes do. Importantly, we're leaders. We're leading ourselves, but we're leading teams, all sorts of different people. And they have that saying, when the leader catches a cold, the rest of the team gets a sniffle. We can radiate out the leader we want to be by leading by example. If we're coming to our stressful situations or our difficult business problems in a way that's calm and considered, then our team are looking at us saying, well, they're calm and considered, despite how bad things may or may not be. Well, we can be too. We're not going to be jumping around and losing our minds either. So it radiates out to the team. Model the behavior you want from your team. We hear it all the time. But if we're not mindful, we're modeling the incorrect behavior. So mindfulness allows us to really think about, what example are we setting? If we're setting an example that shoots their mouth off, that gets angry, that flies off crazy emails at midnight, which don't make sense, or don't expect your team to do any better than that. So mindfulness really allows us to think about, well, what sort of person am I showing up sorry, I'll try that in English. How am I showing up for my team? If I want them to behave differently, well, why should I expect something different than I'm not setting the example myself? Again, I think back to the Gandhi example. He didn't do anything differently than he expected anyone else to do. He was no better than anyone else. So the mindful leader, in summary, when we think of mindfulness, it allows us to concentrate. Yes, we're all time poor, but we also need to think about concentration time. If we apply mindfulness, we can apply our attention and concentrate, resisting distractions, getting our work done and applying ourselves to the task at hand. That takes the awareness of making sure that we're not allowing those distractions. So remember, our attention, it's that great asset we have. So mindfulness allows us to make sure we direct our attention where it needs to be. When we're communicating with others, we can be present. We can make sure that we are listening properly. Listening is a difficult skill because we have so many distractions, not just externally, but that naughty inner dialogue. So listening with presence allows us to reduce that dialogue and truly listen to understand what our stakeholders and our people are saying. We can adapt our approach appropriate to their formality, their language, their styles, and make sure that the communication that we're having is appropriate for the audience by being more aware of them and their needs. As a leader, we can show up as that servant leader to support and enable our team to achieve something greater than what we can do of ourselves. We can be more, reduce that bias that we may have, and we all have unconscious bias. Mindfulness allows us to shed light into some of those unconscious biases that we have, those preferences that are all there because we are human, nothing wrong with them, but we can be more aware that we maybe are showing a bias, try to reduce them and come from a more natural and neutral position. And of course, be more patient, something we can all learn a bit about. So stepping back from those thoughts and reactions, be more patient with others and letting things happen. When we think about decision-making, we need to think about decision-making from a clear, considered point of view, not just snap, snap, snap. Many decisions are made from our subconscious based on previous experience and other bias. So when we're thinking about decision-making with mindfulness, we're able to drop all the different, perhaps conflicting pieces of information, cut through it all with that voice of clarity and really see things in the right way. And then we can hopefully be a bit more proactive by seeing things a bit more calmly and considered. Importantly, as a leader, we're here to inspire a vision, and that vision needs to be clearly communicated. If we can't articulate and lead that vision, then how are we expecting people to follow us, no matter what the project or the initiative is? So being more mindful, we can be more clear about how we show that vision with clarity. It may inspire us to be more creative in some of the options we might have. And again, that objectivity and being open to learning about better ways of achieving that vision. As a leader, I don't have all the answers, but I'm certainly there to inspire the vision. So we can be open to learning as well. And lastly, there are many other scientific benefits to mindfulness, and I'm not going to go through them here. There's many papers published on the interwebs about that, but I'm here to say research them or don't research them. Doesn't matter. Try it for yourself. If you learn some mindfulness and practice it yourself, ask yourself, is this helping me? Am I finding myself showing up better? Am I calm? Am I more resilient? Have I got better communication skills? Am I happier? Am I reducing my stress? If these things are true, it doesn't matter what they say on the internet, right? The benefits should be something that you yourself experience, not just the science, but the science is there as well. So the mindful leader, in summary, mindfulness in leadership has many, many benefits. And I hope some of these thoughts have resonated with you. I've created a little tool to help us with mindfulness and how it applies to success as a leader. So when we think of mindfulness in terms of meeting our objectives, we can be clear about our objectives, mindfully making sure the vision is clear and we know what we want to achieve. Knowing what we want to achieve should drive our attention to those things that will help us achieve that attention. Attention is what you notice, and mindfulness allows us to keep our attention on what's going to help us meet our objective and reduce our attention being distracted on those things that aren't. So attention depends on our awareness, how aware you are, and that's where mindfulness comes in. So we can choose to be aware of those things helpful and not be paying attention to the wrong things. It's a choice that we're making of what we will and what we won't do and act, what we think and act. The right choice determines the right actions, what we actually do. The right actions lead to success, what we achieve. So if we're mindful through all these stages and this chain reaction, it will lead us to be a more successful leader and hopefully inspire more successful initiatives. It's over to you now. I hope that this has been helpful. I'm really excited to answer any of your questions. We still have a little bit of time to do so. Thank you for having me. My details are on the screen. I'm on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get in touch with me. And there's my email address. So on that note,
thank you so much, Kathy. I'm going to share the question up on the page. So this has come from Indumathi. What are the reflective questions for mindfulness? Is there any tips there?
I love this question. I use a simple one, and it sounds a bit funny, but it's the one that works for me. I prompt myself to say, "Hey, brain, what's going on up there?" So it's a way of me asking my mind, what are you thinking right now? And that for me is where the awareness comes in, because so often we get lost in thought. Thoughts come and go, we follow thoughts, and before we know it, we're lost and we're away with the pixies. So the best reflective question is to say, "Hey, brain, what are you thinking?" And then that brings that awareness in, and we can say, "Hey, brain, is that what we should be focusing on? Is this helpful? If not, let's focus on something more helpful, shall we?" So that for me is the greatest one, but there's probably really awareness of what am I thinking, feeling, seeing, smelling, touching, all of those come into.
I love that. I think it's simple, but obviously something that works. Another question from Christine has just come through. How do you apply calmness and mindfulness if leaders are clearly ignoring your input? It can be data backed, best practice, etc. Any tips on that?
I love this too. Thank you. You know, the only person that can be mindful is you. You can't make somebody else be mindful. You can only be mindful yourself. So if you're noticing that someone perhaps is not acting in the great way of mindfulness, well, you need to take care of your own reactivity and your own responses. So instead of you responding by going, "Oh, gee, you know, I wish they were," you know, how we do, that's not very mindful. Maybe we can come to it and say, "Hey, Miss Leader, Mr. and Mrs. Ms. Leader, have you thought about this?" Maybe we can prompt them to perhaps take a breath, calm down, and to see things maybe, "Hang on, I know that you're saying that. Have you thought of this?" So maybe we can subtly prompt them to be more relaxed and calm. But if we aren't calm within ourselves, how can we impress on them? We can't make somebody else mindful, but we can approach them from a more mindful position.
It ties in nicely to something that was said earlier today about, you know, be the leader that you want others to be, like so they can, you know, follow through with your actions, not just what you say as well. So I love that. Just one on stress and burnout. Obviously, we know mindfulness can actually help manage stress, maintain resilience, sustain effective leaders. Is there any techniques that you can share with us to help support how mindfulness supports stress and burnout in that situation?
Yeah, and it's a difficult one, and mindfulness is not always the guaranteed tool to help with stress. But stress, when we think about what is the cause of stress, yes, life is stressful. We can't avoid stressful situations, but it's our attitude towards those situations that will determine how stressed we get. Now, once again, notwithstanding difficulties and other health problems that some people have, when we think of a stressful situation, like perhaps losing money, or I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is. Now, that situation we may or may not have control over. If we have control over, then we can say, let's be confident and put into action something that control it. But many of our situations we don't have control over. So we need to address that and say, well, me ruminating, me wishing it wasn't so, me wishing for something else, me rejecting it or resisting it is actually what's causing the stress. So we need to think about our own thought processes that are perpetuating the resistance to the situation that we may not have any control over. There's a wonderful saying, my favourite saying that taught me a lot in the 20 or so years of mindfulness practice. And the saying goes something like, why worry about something if it can be remedied? Because if it can be remedied, go ahead and remedy it. And then the saying continues, why worry about something if it cannot be remedied? You need to accept and move on. So when our own attitude and our own thoughts can contribute to the amount of stress that we have, the more that we replay and ruminate and exaggerate and perpetuate these negative thoughts, the more stress we're going to build up. So mindfulness can cut through and say, hey, brain, what are you thinking right now? Oh, you're going back over that again? Oh, this is not helpful. How about we think about something else? So we can direct our thoughts to something a bit more constructive. That's one way.
Amazing. I think we have one more question we can squeeze in the next couple of minutes. So I'll just bring that one up on stage. This one's from Joe. How do we balance cultural awareness on global teams who approach leadership very different? Final thoughts?
Oh, such a simple question. Thank you.
1 minute.
Once again, I'll kind of have to go back to only person that can be mindful is you. Lead by example. So be mindful. If you're acting in a calm, considered, clear way, hopefully that will rub off. But yes, we need to be aware that everyone is different. So we need to come together and talk about those and come forward together the best way. So yes, again, we can't make other people mindful but ourselves. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. And earlier, anyone would like to connect with you on LinkedIn, they're more than welcome to do so. So anyone whose question wasn't answered today, please do so. Otherwise, Kathy, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you.
It's been wonderful to be here and great to see you again, Fatima. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to Kathy again. We are about to move into our final topic, last two topics of the day. So please join me. We are about to start the putting the agile into governance, not the governance into agile, which I will take you through in the next session. Thank you.